can grab it.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm gonna call our meeting to order and I have 5:03. The first question I have, is there anything that we need to add or change on the agenda? No, all right.
Okay.
Then we can entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
All right.
Second.
Okay, perfect. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right.
Aye.
Good. And then we can approve our past prior meeting minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion on that?
I wrote them, so I guess I
Okay.
shouldn't.
Okay, Michelle.
I second.
Oh, poor Kit. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks like we don't have anyone for public comment.
Actually,
Oh.
we do.
Oh.
My husband is here, and I told him he should, check in as a member of the public. So.
Okay, hello. Welcome.
Hello, board members.
Hello, Kit's husband.
I'm just sitting in, I'm just based on my experience on several other boards, I'm interested in how investments work on this one. And so I'm just going to listen in and thank you all for your service and efforts to get our new library director and keeping things running smoothly. Thank you.
And my husband's name is Rob Hoffman, for those of you that don't know him. He isn't Mr. Walker.
Yeah. Maybe someday I'll be worthy of that.
Well, thank you for joining us. We are happy to have you here. All right, next up we have our treasurer's report and we have our lovely Morgan Stanley rep who gratefully joined us.
I apologize I don't have any material for you guys that are Zooming, but I'll try to walk you through the data that everyone else has in front of them. So what I try to do is keep it very simple, and all of this information is up to date as of like Friday. So it's even more up to date than the information you would get on your monthly statement. So the
One quick thing. I don't know your name. It may be on the agenda, but I missed it. Sorry.
It's Will Edwards. And
Will Edwards.
I've been handling the account for probably 30 years at Morgan
Wow.
Stanley. Yeah, and before I handled it, someone else at Morgan Stanley has been handling it. In fact, it could have been before you joined us by Zoom. I was just mentioning that Morgan Stanley installed some performance tracking software in all of our accounts literally about 30 or 35 years ago. And you pull up your account and the account was still live and going before Morgan Stanley installed the software. So the account has been at Morgan Stanley for quite some time. Mm-hmm. But really good news with the account. So let me give you some numbers. In the upper left-hand corner of the single sheet is the value of the account as of actually this morning. So it was a skosh over $893,000.
And this doesn't include the cash, this is just the
no.
mutual funds.
No.
You have like 87,500 in cash.
That includes the cash.
Oh.
So there are kind of two different money markets. To the right of that number in the upper left-hand corner that I highlighted, the 893, you see like $150. That's the traditional money market. That was probably a dividend that posted or something like that. Your pals at Morgan Stanley give you probably a whopping 0% on that money market. That's why there's a very nominal amount of money in there. We have to manually hit a couple buttons to move it. So, unless something crazy happens, it's very easy for us to do it if you let us know.
I'm struggling. I'm sorry that I'm struggling, but I'm struggling because I looked at this on Friday and it was like 917,000 on our statement, including the cash, and we're talking, or not Friday, the end of May.
Okay, Friday, the market was a little unhappy, so there was about a 2.5% difference between
Okay.
beginning of Friday, the end of Friday.
And then today.
No, this really doesn't affect, today does not factor into
Yeah.
this, and the market was not crazy today at all. But let me answer your question about the second money market that you were referring to. If you look at the set of numbers in the middle of the page that I highlighted, this is the second money market that comes with the account. This is the preferred savings money market. In that money market, there's approximately $887,597. That money market is just as liquid as the first money market. So if you call us tomorrow and say a tree fell on the roof and we need $75,000, can you wire it to the bank? Doesn't cost you all anything for us to hit a button, and we move it over to the first money market. The money's working much harder for you, and we send you the money wherever you want it to go. The preferred savings money market, as of today, the interest rate is 3.35, which is a very respectable interest rate for a money market. Morgan Stanley has been very aggressive with that mousetrap, for lack of a better way to describe it. So a year and a half ago, when interest rates were higher, the interest rate on that money market at one point was over 5%. So as the Federal Reserve has lowered interest rates, Morgan Stanley obviously has lowered the rates as well. So it won't stay at 3.35 in perpetuity forever. But until the Fed does something, your money's liquid, FDIC insured, and it's getting a pretty nice rate of return. Then to your point, the mutual funds that make up the majority of the account are at the bottom of this piece of paper. So there are 5 different mutual funds, all from American funds. If you look at the very bottom of that column in, I guess, bold, you'll see 806,000 and change. That's the value of all 5 of the mutual funds together. And then those numbers above that number are the values for each one of the mutual funds that are listed by name to the left. And the money has been in those mutual funds for years and done very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, we have done very well. How long have they been in these funds? And really, the allocation hasn't changed.
The allocation has definitely changed over the years, depending on your needs. So as we were chatting before you got here, I mean, I was handling the account when you guys were in the process of planning for this edition. And at one point, we had a lot of CDs in the account, because the people who were on the board that thought, hey, we're gonna need this money, and they tucked the money to the side because they didn't want to take any chances. You spent the money, so the allocation changed a little bit then. The other thing that has probably caused the allocation to change a little bit is performance. Right now, the money market makes up, well, I'll give you the official number here in a second, about 12%. But the accounts have gone up so much the last couple of years, that's caused that number to drop on a percentage basis. And I have, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is the allocation and the performance stuff, if you wanna, are there any other questions on the material that I just went over right now?
No, I think allocation was one of our
Yeah.
questions that we.
Okay.
Especially
that we
given
talked
the market right now.
Okay.
I mean, just I'm glad I didn't pass out my report, because just on, the end of the month, it was 917,000, in total, down to the 893,000, so.
Yeah, but if you think about it on a percentage basis, that's like, I'm not a math whiz, but I think that's like 2.5%.
It's been good, it's
Yeah.
just,
So
We all wish
let's,
we had a crystal ball.
mine was not Y2K compatible.
Yes.
Um,
Two
but-
questions I have,
Sure.
Will. One, could you give an extra hard copy of the numbers to Michelle? She's my neighbor, and when we're back in town, I'll come pick them up so I can look at them. It's kind of hard to ask questions without that. But my second question is, do you show the allocation now between the mutual funds and the cash account? What is the breakdown now?
You're stealing my thunder, that's where we were going next.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
You just scan this and email it to you?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do, so maybe we can do that
Oh.
now.
But I don't want to slow things up.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, I think we
Okay.
can walk through it on this, and I have a copy right here for you that you can peruse later. How does that sound?
Yeah, it just is hard to just listen without knowing what I'm looking at. It really isn't for me. I'm a numbers person, but I like to see it in black and white, and I'm not as good audibly as I am visually.
Yeah.
So how hard would that be, Carolyn, to scan that one pager?
Pretty easy. I've got to pull up your email address, but I have my email open out on the circulation desk computer, and I just toss this in the scanner and pop in your email, and it'll buzz it right over to you. It'll only take.
Are you okay with that? Everybody else just taking a.
Going, because I am the least important person to hear all.
Probably would make sense to have everyone here at the same time.
Yeah.
Hey, Carolyn, you want me to save you a little bit of, the bigger packet? I think, it sounds like the numbers Kit is looking for.
Yep.
The third page, you'll see some bar charts.
Okay,
It
yes, I
says
see those.
performance summary on the top in
Okay.
bold,
Yep,
and then the page right behind that,
yep.
where it says portfolio snapshot with a pie chart,
Mm-hmm.
that is all the allocation data she is looking for.
Perfect. All right. I'll just be a.
While you're doing that, maybe that you could talk about this, because maybe it's easier to talk about. Is part of your presentation what these funds, the type of investments that they're made up of?
Well, that's kind of covered in the allocation page that I put all this information together. You want me to, why don't,
Like for example, American Capital World,
Mhm.
GR Inc., like
Mhm.
what kind of is that, like industrial, what
Yeah.
makes that up?
so why don't we jump ahead to the
Oh, I
third
see.
page with the bar charts,
Okay.
the performance summary. And so the line that I highlighted the information is the total return of the account. And I didn't really highlight for month to date or quarter to date. But the first column that I highlighted that is in the middle of the page is the year-to-date number. So the rate of return for the account year-to-date is 9.7%. The column to the right is the last 12 months, and it's 19%.
Yeah.
The column to the right of that is over the last 3 years, that's 18%. The column to the right of that is over the last 5 years, it's 11%. And then the far right column is since inception, since Morgan Stanley loaded in this account into the software, which is in 2007. So I apologize, I guess that's 19 years, and it's almost 9%.
So that takes into consideration those years, 2008.
And, yep, and if you look at the series of numbers that I did not highlight, it gets a little busy, but above each one of those columns, you can see any money that's come out. So for instance, over the inception for the construction of the project here in 14 and 15, but then you can see how much the account has grown over that time frame as well. So just randomly cherry picking a number, over the last 12 months, the account has grown almost $150,000. If you look over the last 3 years, it's grown about $370,000. So to your point about the allocation numbers, you can see as the equity in the mutual funds has grown, that's kind of skewed the allocation numbers. Do these numbers that
Which we've
I,
definitely noticed. We've noticed with Michelle's statements over the years and that was really one of our questions. At what point does it make sense to rebalance? And we do that personally when we feel like we're too heavy in stocks. And so it's just something to discuss, but I was just wondering what the current balance is now, what
okay,
percent.
that's on the next page, and I was gonna flip to that.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the page that I just went over with the performance numbers? Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've emailed to, it's like RR1, box
Yes.
8282, yeah, at Gmail.
Yep.
So you should get it in a minute if you haven't gotten it already.
I actually do
Okay.
have
I
one,
don't see it yet, but I'll keep looking.
Okay.
I actually do have one question on
Sure.
this performance summary bar chart page. Just from my own understanding, the other colors of the bar chart, the S&P total return, is that like used as is that like a benchmark?
Yeah, those are different benchmarks
Yeah.
that Morgan Stanley randomly chooses to kind of incorporate.
Yeah.
The S&P is a very common, probably the most common index people use for US large cap equity investing. The column on the bottom, the MSCI, that's kind of the equivalent of the S&P for international investing, so predominantly Europe and Japan.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of applicable if we flip over to the next page, which, Kit, it sounds like is the stuff you really want to kind of dive into. So let me kind of very slowly walk you through this. And do you have a pencil so you could write down a couple numbers?
You're muted.
You're muted, yeah.
I pulled up the scan. Thank you, Carolyn. It's sideways. How do I rotate it?
How do you rotate it? If you are pulling it up with Adobe Acrobat, there should be like a view thing, so you can rotate it 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It should be in the web browser too. Here, I can hold it
You know
up
how
to
to
you.
do that?
How does the portfolio value $915,000 at the
Try to
top of
straighten it
this
out.
I'm in.
compared to the front?
That is an outstanding question that I chatted with my assistant who put the report together this morning. And
figure out how to
that is
rotate
the
it?
difference between one of the reports, the first report we did on Thursday at the end of the day, and the second report we did at Friday at the end of the day. And once again, I don't wanna minimize $20,000, but that's why the numbers don't match up. We just completely randomly, didn't have enough time in the day
Right.
to
What
do
web
10
browser are you
copies of,
viewing it in?
we actually had a meeting before this,
Oh, we
so
totally.
we were pretty swamped, and
Yeah.
she works from home because she has young kids on Monday, just to make it more exciting, which is great. But the 20,000, approximately 20,000 on a percentage basis, it's basically the movement in the stock market, and Friday was kind of a one-off extreme day. But on the flip side of that, the stock market had been vertically straight up for 2 or 3 months before that. So the Morgan Stanley Big Picture Strategy people, as of this morning, talking about the stock market activity on Thursday and Friday, are not really concerned at all, and actually
Kit, are you looking at it
would
in
argue
the web
that it's healthy.
browser? Can I help you with instructions to rotate the image?
Yeah, no, I've got it as a Google Doc or a PDF, and there's nothing on my screen that helps me rotate it. So I don't want to hold you guys up anymore. I will do my best to listen, and I'll look at it sideways as best as I can.
Well, Kit, jump in, and if I'm talking too quickly or not enunciating well enough, I've been accused of mumbling. I'm happy to repeat any numbers and answer any questions. Is that fair enough?
Okay, thank you. Yep, sounds good.
Right, so the page that I'm gonna kind of walk through right here is an analysis that Morgan Stanley has, where we have the ability to look into the holdings of the account. So obviously, the money that is in the preferred money market is a no-brainer and easy to look at. But they're also able to pull the data from the mutual fund companies and incorporate that into this analysis in real time.
Oops. Where'd she drop?
Didn't think my spiel was that bad right off the bat, was it?
Now we're good.
Internet stuff in the area
Yeah,
she's
she's
at,
yeah, the lake.
yeah.
No, I'm,
So we're able to pull the data from the mutual fund holdings and incorporate it into this analysis. And it's an accurate real-time look at the asset allocation. So the report that we put together, you can't have an asset allocation report without the standard pie chart. And so we start with the standard pie chart. And what the pie chart is telling us is that approximately 12% of the whole account is in cash. Approximately 67% of the account are in US stocks. Approximately 19% of the account are in non-US stocks. And as of right now, there is no money in bonds or fixed income. The
Yes.
next, I'm sorry, are there any questions?
that's fine.
Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
Nope.
The next offshoot to that is a chart that I'm sure you have seen a million times, where it is a big box and it's by different lines. The first line, one axis is large stocks. The middle axis is mid-sized stocks. The lower axis are small stocks. And then they have axes for size of stocks. Not size, but style. So growth, value, and blend. So the top line of the box, there's approximately 24% of the money in large cap value stocks. On the other extreme of that line, there's 25% of the money in large cap growth stocks. And then the remaining money in large cap stocks are what would be considered a blend, which is approximately 34%. So what that is telling me is we're not making an outside size bet on large cap value versus large cap growth. The money that we have invested in large cap stocks is pretty evenly distributed amongst different styles. And then for mid-sized stocks and small stocks, the numbers in percent are much smaller, but the ratios are very comparable. The one data point that really jumps out to me that I think you might want to take note of is right now the S&P 500, the benchmark for the S&P 500 is almost made up of 40% technology stocks. Your account in this report, we break out by industry sector, as you were alluding to when you were chatting earlier. And in your account right now, 25.9% of the account is in technology stocks. So what that means to me, and this is just my opinion, is that your account is under invested or representative to the S&P 500 in terms of technology stocks. That's neither good or bad. That's just a data point that kind of jumps out at me because a lot of the performance in the market the last couple years has been driven by the Magnificent Seven stocks that I'm sure you're familiar with, that are the large technology stocks.
And also most volatile as of recently, sort of.
I guess I have college age girls. Volatility is a very relative. The other thing that kind of jumps out at me is approximately 20% of the account, 19% of the account is invested outside the US. I think you probably realize that the Japanese stock market for the last 30 years has been a death trap. It has been the worst place in the world to be. Recently, the last 18 months or so, that's really changed. And that's really helped the performance of the account, because one of the mutual funds that you have, the American Funds Euro Pacific, has historically done very well investing in Asian stocks as well as European stocks. So the account, it's kind of remarkable that the performance is as good as it is, because number one, you're underinvested in the best place to be in the market from a industry standpoint the last 3 or 4 years. And then on top of that, you're underinvested geographically, US compared to international. Personally, I think it's great, because a lot of people feel the international markets are very fairly valued and a good place to invest money, especially since the American markets have done so well. But it's been very true that the international markets have really underperformed the last couple of years. And that is starting to change, as I mentioned earlier, with the international markets. The Japanese market has been making new highs for the last year or so.
And why is that?
And is the
It's been a
Japanese,
disaster for
are the
so long.
Japanese,
It only has a place to go,
Yeah.
is up. And are they gonna, if our markets are not as favorable, would you expect that the Japanese market would go up as like a place where
I
people
would
can
expect
plant
all the
money?
foreign markets to probably do well, but then you're starting to get in the weeds. And if you're a believer that big US technology companies are vastly superior to Japanese or European technology companies, and if you're drinking the Kool-Aid that AI is the new internet revolution, and everyone has their own opinions on that. You know, if that is in fact the case, how many huge Japanese and European technology companies are in a position to compete with Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Apple? And that's kind of above my pay grade a little bit, so I don't know. Kit, I'm 100% certain you have some questions. What can I,
yeah. My
What-
first question was, it was about, you were mentioning the allocation of the stocks in non-US stocks, and then you went right to the Japanese stock market. Is that a big part of the 19%? Because I would imagine there's a lot of other non-US stocks in there. Is that a big part?
Actually, that's a great question. The report that you're gonna get a hard copy, that you have an email,
Yep.
there is a series of numbers and line items right next to the industry category that is geographic. So to answer your question specifically, and I know it's very hard in a Zoom, and I'm bearing you with data points, 2% of the account is in Japan, 4% of the account is in Asia developed, so that could be someplace like Taiwan and Taiwan Semiconductor, or Korea, maybe a little bit of China. So in greater Asia in total, and you'll see this in the report when you get a chance to look at it, 6.5% of the account is exposed to Asia. Europe, as a comparison, is approximately 12%. So 5% is England. So, I wouldn't say you're making an outside, big picture gamble on China versus someplace else, I think it's a lot easier to look at it just US versus non-US, and then these
Sure.
money managers with a couple of the mutual funds. I mean, they have some discretion about whether they think there's more value in X country and probably that company specifically
Sure.
in that country and that industry. So that's really what's going to drive the train. But to specifically answer your question in terms of hard numbers, that is very clearly addressed in the report when you see it.
Okay.
So we've been in these same, since I've been the treasurer,
Mhm.
we've been in these same
Mhm.
5 mutual funds.
Mhm.
In terms of like, you know, you mentioned the Infotech, for example, the S&P benchmark is the 40%,
Mhm.
or 25%. Like, I guess, how does it all work in terms of like, do you make decisions to move monies between
I don't make-
these
I don't make-
two, or
I don't make any decisions, I'll give you my input if you guys ask me for my
So
input.
was it the previous board who chose these with probably some?
Yeah, but then, you know, things have evolved over time, as I mentioned, as things always evolve, and I think a lot of that has been driven by what's been going on with you all as an institution. The last 3 or 4 pages of this little packet are the Morningstar
Yep.
reports on all 5 of the mutual funds. And I'm not
Okay.
sure how familiar you are with Morningstar reports, but they're kind of viewed as a, you know, nonpartisan. It's not Morgan Stanley's propaganda. It's not American Fund's propaganda. All 5 of the mutual funds are very highly thought of. And in the report, you can very clearly see what each one of the funds are investing in terms of top 10 holdings, sectors, geographically, the rates of return. So all the data and all the funds is in this report. To answer your
Great.
question, actually at the last board meeting 4 or 5 years ago,
Right.
we talked about it a little bit, and I made a comment that if you guys had come to me today with $900,000 of fresh money, I might suggest putting some of that money into an S&P 500 ETF and just replicate the S&P. But that being said, when you invested the money in these funds eons ago, you all paid any sales charges up front a long time ago, and the internal expenses on these are so low. They're approximately, Kit, did you hear my comment?
That's one of her questions, actually, I know.
Yes, yeah. No, I'm
The-
actually, I can see the
Yep, the
last
internal-
5 pages.
The
The right
internal
way. Sorry, go
expense
ahead.
ratios on these American funds, since you've
Yeah.
owned them for so long, it's approximately 25 basis points. So that's a pretty cheap way to invest your money. I'm not paying for my retirement, and Morgan Stanley isn't getting rich on the fees that we're shaking you guys down, managing the money. And if we wanted to take money away from the American funds and do something else with it, I probably would make more money, number one, but that's really not the most important thing. You know, we could put the money into that S&P 500 ETF that I love. I have hundreds of millions of dollars of clients' money invested in it, but we gotta charge you a little something to buy the thing. And the internal expense ratio on that is gonna be, I wanna say 8 basis points. So it's lower, but it's not like we're talking about 1% versus 0. There is a little bit of difference, and you would make that up depending on how long you kept the money in there. We would not charge you a crazy amount of money to buy the thing, but we would have to charge you something. I would argue, and it sounds like you all really want to kind of talk about rebalancing, you might want to think about taking some money out of the mutual funds, if that's the direction you want to go, and take a look at some CDs. And Kit, I have some numbers for you that I think you might want to write down. These are numbers as of this morning. I have a lot of clients that buy CDs, and CD rates change on a daily basis, so don't hang me if the number is marginally different. But interest rates have gone up, and so you can get a 1-year CD today with a yield of 4.05%. You can get a 2-year CD with a yield of 4.1%. You can get a 3-year CD with a yield of 4.2%. Those aren't horrible numbers. Those are pretty nice numbers.
Yeah.
In general, what I would counsel, if you wanted my input, is if you all decided you like the idea of rebalancing, whatever number you decide you would like in safe conservative, let's take that number and divide it by 3. Or you can even do 4 if you wanted to get a 4-year CD. I don't have that number in front of me. I could get it. But a very common strategy that we did with you all way back in the day with the expansion of the wing, stagger the maturities on the CD, create a ladder, and you know that every year the library has some new money maturing, and you can have a hell of a party or do whatever you want to do with it, or buy another CD, or if the stock market is 0, go use the proceeds and buy something very cheaply, but it gives you enormous flexibility.
And that's a better interest rate than
the
the mutual fund with the 87,000.
It is.
yeah.
But both those numbers kind of go in lockstep together because they're being driven by the same dynamics.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely correct. And on that note, you could look at it 2 ways. People are concerned about inflation now. If the Federal Reserve actually starts raising interest rates, which is not Morgan Stanley's opinion, some people feel that way. If they start raising interest rates, the interest rate on the money market would go up, and you're locked in to the 4.05. If you're of the opinion that they're gonna lower interest rates, which a lot of people were at the beginning of the year, but with oil prices and inflation, that is not kind of the consensus anymore. But if the Fed lowers interest rates, your money market interest rate is gonna trend lower, because Morgan Stanley's not gonna give you a free lunch, but you've locked in an interest rate, so
maybe keep both.
yeah, and that's the whole argument for doing the latter, and maybe keeping the money in the money market as well, is that's kind of another component of the latter.
Yeah, I feel like that over the 2 or 3 years that I've been on the commission, it's shifted more and more because of the stock market towards the rebalancing. I think the need for rebalancing, and that we take some money off the table. We're a conservative organization. We're not going to try to predict what the Fed is going to do. We're not going to, we're not going to do that. We don't have that expertise. But I like the idea of the staggering the rates, the CDs into different years. And I think that's a discussion the rest of us have to have. But I guess I'd like to know what fees, if there are any, if we did sell some of the mutual funds, are there fees involved with that we should be thinking about?
No, that's the beautiful thing.
Buying.
When the library board eons ago put the money into the mutual funds, whatever class of shares they purchased, the fees were up front. So there's no gotcha on the way out. But
okay,
the one caveat, I'm not supposed to give tax advice. I am not an accountant. I don't think you all would pay capital gains, but you might want to run that by someone who is an accountant and get some clarity for sure, because I don't want you guys to hang me in April when you get a 1099 from Morgan Stanley, because these mutual funds have gone up so much, and oh geez, we didn't think we were going to have to pay taxes, and what do you mean we got to write a check for 50 grand? So I would strongly recommend
get some advice.
some professional advice. I'm sure Waterbury's got somebody. How's that for a disclaimer?
Yeah, no, fair point. And that was one of my other questions was about the upfront fees versus, not capital gains, separate topic, but
Yep.
you address the upfront fees, which is good because I've been asking that question for a long time and that's kind of what we thought, but I'm glad to hear it from you.
Nope, and like I said, the expense ratio, the internal fees are very modest. And American Funds
Yes.
does put themselves on, they're so big, they really try to drive down the internal fees, but it's really two discussions and two arguments, as you've kind of highlighted. It's not necessarily just the internal expenses, it's the asset allocation and have you all done so well that maybe it's prudent to take a little off the top and layer in some bonds, some CDs at very nice
Yep.
interest rates. So, I mean, if you all
Yep.
want to do that, that's just a quick phone call from you all to me. Tell me how much you want to sell. We can hit a button and tell me how much you want to put in, whatever maturity, and I can give you very accurate numbers. And you can decide whether you like those numbers or you don't like those numbers. And we can move on that very, very quickly. It's a very easy process that we've done with your board in the past.
Great. And Michelle, are you aware of someone in the town that can help us with advice about?
I know their accountants, so I can.
Okay, great. Great.
Okay, Michelle asked if there were any fees on the CDs. There are modest fees.
Yeah.
You don't see them. Once again, I'm not sending the kids to college. I mean, in terms of scope, and this is ballpark, for like $100,000, it's probably something like $100. But you're not gonna see it on the con firm.
My only other question on the CDs, like if we did a staggered ladder, what happens to those CD funds when that, like, let's say we did a 1 year, what happens to those funds after the 1 year matures? Does it go into the?
No, that's a great question, and let me kind of, one more variable on that. Most CDs with us have interest rates every 6 months. So let's say the interest rate is 4%, every 6 months you're gonna get 2%. So when that CD has an interest rate payment, that money is gonna funnel into your traditional money market where your pals at Morgan Stanley can rip you off. So what we will do is keep an eye on that, and the next day, we'll hit a button if you want us to, and obviously we'll chat beforehand, because we don't do anything without your permission, but we can very easily hit a button and slide that money into the preferred savings bucket that's liquid, that you guys can get your hands on whenever. To your point, when the CDs mature, it's the exact same process. The money will funnel into the traditional money market, and then you all can do whatever you want to do with it. We can hit the button and slide it into the preferred savings until you make that decision. The other offshoot with that, since we're kind of talking CDs, Morgan Stanley treats CDs kind of like bonds, and I don't think you want to base any investment decisions on this, but traditionally at a bank, if you try to get out of a CD before it matures, you have to break the CD and there might be a penalty. There's not a penalty with Morgan Stanley if you call us and say, geez, the roof really, the tree wiped it out, and we need all the money in the cash, and we need the money in the 2-year CD before it matures. So how that process works is I can hit a button, communicate with our fixed income trading desk, and say the Waterbury Library has $75,000 in this CD with an interest rate of XYZ, and that CD doesn't mature for another 6 months. And if they wanted to sell that CD, can you give us a firm number of what they would walk away with? And that number would include any interest you have earned since the previous interest payment. So we kind of treat it like a bond, but the bond trader at Morgan Stanley is not gonna do any favors for the nice ladies in Waterbury. So the different variables will be what has happened with interest rates from the time you bought the CD and locked in those interest rates versus where interest rates are in real time now, kind of just like a regular bond, and then how much time on that CD before it matures. So you have liquidity, you might make a couple bucks, you might lose a couple bucks. It wouldn't bankrupt you either way. I certainly wouldn't encourage you to do it unless you really, really had to do it. And I would struggle to come up with a scenario where you guys would be in that position. But I just wanted to kind of walk you through that for full disclosure as another thing to kind of think about. My personal opinion, it shouldn't be a deal breaker. And that's why you kind of go with the strategy of staggering the maturities anyway and leaving a pretty good amount of money in the preferred savings money market. So you got something for those liquidity needs as well. Does that make any sense?
So, yes, I'm just, it occurred to me that we haven't talked about maybe shifting some of the mutual funds into a bond fund. And we don't have anything in a bond fund. And why are the CDs more liquid? It just seems like a lot more work to be constantly figuring out, where we're going to put it, what are we going to do with it? I mean, we're not like financial powerhouses here.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. I would argue that CDs are a little bit more cost effective. I think the bond manager is probably, I know American funds have some great bond funds. I know there are plenty of other good bond funds out there. But then if we do the bond fund route, you gotta pay some sort of fee initially to get into it. And then there are gonna be internal expenses on the bond fund. And then I would argue, it's always my pleasure to talk with you all on the phone. And we're really only talking about most likely once a year a CD maturing. And I really hope to talk with you more than once a year.
Yeah, that's, I think, what's come out of this for me is that we have to sort of be more proactive. I sort of inherited this and we've had a lot of questions, and I think we do need to be more proactive. And
I think the market's done really, really well for like the last 3 or 4 years. And if you look at the performance, you look at 3 years ago, the account was $622,000.
Yeah.
You guys pulled out 77 grand over that time frame, but it grew 370.
Right.
So it's awesome. You guys have made a lot of money. And I think to your point, you're not trying to run a hedge fund, and I don't think you are. It's under invested in technology stocks. It's actually invested very conservatively, but you're kind of the poster child for Warren Buffett, putting it in, not freaking out, and it really grows.
Yeah. So then the argument that we're having about taking some out to put in a bond fund, I guess the question is ultimately, and this is not why you're here, but ultimately we have to ask ourselves, what is this for? What do we want it to continue to grow? Are we trying to move some money into a more secure place because we're afraid that because it's been so good for 3 years and it may continue to get better, but what is our responsibility to that growth that happened?
Right.
You threw me a softball.
Okay.
Kit, you're gonna kill me. I'll see if I can, I'll try to leave you a copy of this. Have you ever heard of something, Kit, called an Ibbotson chart? Does that ring any bells?
No.
Ibbotson's kind of like Morningstar. It's a company that doesn't invest money at all. They're a data analytical performance company. And 40 years ago, when I started this, every broker at Merrill Lynch had a huge poster on the wall. It was an Ibbotson chart. And all it does is it takes the returns on $1 going back to the Great Depression and breaking it out since the Great Depression through a whole bunch of different data points and then index returns. So the indexes that they use in this chart are small stocks, big stocks, bonds, T-bills, and inflation. And it's an amazing chart, and it just, in one picture, sums up what you guys are wrestling with. And that is what this chart is. Give me 1 second, I think I have more of them. I have brought too many pieces of paper.
That's okay.
So you can see that $1 over a really long time, it's just pure math. It's gonna grow a lot more in small stocks, then big stocks, it's gonna grow to a really, really big number. Can you?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
And then the key thing is to stay ahead of inflation, obviously, and the relationship, like T-bills and cash to inflation. And the chart does an amazing job of putting everything in perspective, starting with the Great Depression, then the financial crisis, the 70s when the stock market was brutal, the all kinds of different data points. But it's doing it over such a long time frame. Those blips are so inconsequential. It's Warren Buffett over the long haul. So it's really
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I totally understand that. I just think that like 90% in stocks, I feel like that's more aggressive than the kind of organization we are.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not arguing with you. You guys want to? It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that is really cool.
You come up to Burlington, I have a big poster.
No,
When you run out of things to say,
I definitely am aware of that, of those concepts in terms of long-term. I mean, we totally manage our own finances with a very long-term perspective, and we don't play the market, and we don't bet on individual stocks, and we put it in and we walk away, and we dollar cost averaging, and we do all the kind of boring, regular sort of things. But we look at the balance in our own financials between stocks and securities that are not as volatile. And I kept watching this number growing and growing and said, what are we doing? Are we paying attention to it? So that's what we want to do. We just want to pay attention. And everybody may say, this has worked for us for, the last however many years. Let's just stay the course. And as long as we make that decision consciously, that's all. I just want to have the discussion.
Well, I don't have a dog in the fight. Whatever you all want to do, we've enjoyed helping you all these years, and I think there are a whole bunch of different directions. I'm a fan of CDs for safe conservative. I don't think you'll ever get shot at a cocktail party if someone says, oh my God, you're on that board and there's money in a CD. I mean, it's pretty hard to get in trouble defending that. And we don't want to put you in a position to have to defend anything. So whatever you all decide, just let us know. We can do it. I would say, my own personal opinion, whatever like percentage basis you all decide, I don't think there's a right or wrong number, but whatever that number is, take it and maybe divide it into 3 or 4 slices, with maybe most likely the preferred savings being one of those slices. And then every year you got a CD that matures. We can handle that. And then you just go buy another 3-year CD.
Will, one other thing, does it make any sense if we said, let's say we said we wanted to get down to like 80% in the mutual funds, would it make any sense to do it, in sections, like do X percent, in the first year and then wait another year, just not make a big decision all at once, but just kind of time it as well as we pull it out?
That's a great question, and the conversation I had with the client before you today was kind of factoring in that, because there were tax ramifications, and you wanted to kind of spread the tax pain.
Yes.
Once again, since I'm not an accountant, but you all are going to get accounting advice. If there's not tax ramifications, I think that makes it a lot less painful to, the market's had a pretty good run. We think the market's gonna continue to do well, so I don't wanna paint a scenario like Morgan Stanley thinks it's going off the edge of the cliff. But if this is something you all feel like you wanna do, you can take a pretty good amount out now. The interest rates are really attractive, so you're kind of taking advantage of attractive interest rates.
Yeah.
And if the market keeps going up some more, you always have the leeway next year of maybe doing a little more pruning. If you all decide that you want to
Yeah.
get in the habit of really monitoring the asset allocation mix and not getting too far ahead of your skis, which is great. I totally get it. It's not going to cost you anything in terms of fees to do it. There are potentially no tax
Okay.
ramifications. So however you all want to do it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
How's my fancy?
My husband has a question. Sorry, he's coming in.
Hey, Will, thank you for all this. I
Rob.
had a couple questions. One is, do I understand it correctly that because the library paid an upfront load, that there is not a ongoing management fee, meaning like a wrap fee based on assets?
Oh, definitely. That's why my boss is very unhappy with me, but I sleep like a baby. The way this account is set up, and it sounds like you understand what you're talking about, we could have you jammed in a wrap account and Morgan Stanley shaking you down 1% on the value of the account. All of our competitors have that same mousetrap, and people love it because the brokerage firm and the broker makes a lot of money. I don't know, 1% of almost 900,000 is a pretty big number. This account was set up long before that was really a concept. So this account, if you look at the statement, you will very, very clearly see the symbols on the 5 different American funds. And it sounds like you follow things very closely. On the statement, you will very clearly see that each one of those American funds are Class A shares. And in general, don't hang me to the specific number, but I'm pretty confident saying, I want to say it comes out to approximately 24 basis points. So there's no flat fee, 1% on top of that. It's just the internal expenses on the funds, which, as you know, you don't see on the statement. It's getting clipped off that you never see it.
Sure.
But you can open up the prospectus or go on the internet and hit 3 buttons and see it there.
Okay, great.
Does that answer your question?
It answers it, and it's reassuring, and it's good for the library. I was on the board of a nonprofit where it was with Morgan Stanley, and there was a wrap fee. And so
Oh, they
like
love
that
it.
money market,
They
instead of
love it.
being 3.35, it's 2.35 or 2.55, depending on what the fee was.
Nothing like getting jammed 1% on a lousy money market fee.
Yeah,
That really helps the
exactly.
performance of the account.
Okay, that's great. 2 last things. One is on the CDs, the approximate rates that you quoted, and they'll be different tomorrow, perhaps. Those are non-callable or callable CDs?
You're kind of blending a couple different things. Well, no, you're not. Actually, they now have callable CDs. I stay away from them. Too
Okay.
confusing. They tease
Sure.
you with the higher interest rate, but it's fool's gold, as you know. These are plain Jane vanilla, X date, nothing can change, FDIC insured. It's really not applicable to you guys, but because of Morgan Stanley's scale, we have like 20 or 30 different CDs from different banks in our inventory. So obviously we have CDs from Morgan Stanley's bank, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Bank America, People's, any national bank and even local banks market their CDs through Morgan Stanley. So if you start getting in a situation where you're worried about FDIC insurance limits, we can switch names. It's really not applicable to you guys, but we got a gazillion different banks to choose from on the CDs.
Okay, that sounds great. And just one heads up for the board. I was on a nonprofit that did not have a tax consequence to the liquidation of assets. And for whatever reason, it was either the nonprofit or Morgan Stanley. I've got my opinion, but I'll leave it ambiguous. Um, Morgan Stanley withheld, 30% or something on the liquidation, and it was forwarded to the IRS and the Vermont Tax Department, and it took years to get the money back, even though there was no tax liability. So we just want to make sure the whatever paperwork is in alignment at Morgan Stanley, that if we liquidate or if you liquidate anything to move into the CDs, that it recognizes if the guidance is that this nonprofit doesn't owe any taxes, that the money doesn't go into limbo for an extended period of time.
Good. Yeah, it can be very hard to get that through the IRS.
Will, I was on the board of another nonprofit, and Morgan Stanley service was outstanding and wonderful. Chris Doobie was the guy that.
Oh, Chris Doobie literally lived right across the street from me.
Okay. Well, that was Vermont PBS at the time. And he was wonderful to work with. And I enjoyed your presentation. So thank you very much.
Well,
and
it
thanks.
wasn't anything very scientific. We try to keep it simple, but I'll tell you.
Well, and to his credit, Chris was that way of not trying to make things so complicated that people felt like they were dependent on the investment advisor. And I think that shows a confidence, and you displayed that as well today.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, guys. I mean, this account is amazing. You go back all these years and how you guys have spent the money so well, and the addition to the library and the way we've been able to grow it. I mean, it's investing in 101. It's what people should do. But, I think your point is right. It's gone up so much. Maybe it's time to do a little trimming and rebalancing. But
It's just time to have the discussion. That's all.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sorry, I had so many questions,
Is this
guys.
the first time you've been to the new bit?
Yeah, 5 years ago. It was great.
Was it new?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? It was like
It's even a little more than that.
It's
yeah,
only,
it's-
it's only.
14 or 15, right? Was when you were pulling the money out, I think.
It was, yeah, and it was, the addition was built in this was built in 2015 and it opened February 2016,
Yeah.
I believe.
Any more questions? Am I free to?
Street on the street.
You are free to go.
I'm supposed to grill tonight,
All
so.
right, yeah, you
better
better
get
go
going.
jump on that grill.
So
Thank you,
nice.
Will.
I think hydrating wouldn't be uncalled for as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks a lot, ladies.
Thank you
Really
very
great to
much.
see you, and
Thank
be
you.
in touch, and
Yeah.
have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I bet that's what my husband's doing right now.
Yeah, really.
Mine too, probably,
Yeah.
actually. All right, well, we can hopefully kind of breeze through the rest a little bit.
I just had.
That was overdue. I'm sorry I had so many questions, but I feel like we've
Yeah, no, it's
been
great. It's
talking about it
important.
for at least a year, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
For sure. In terms of minutes, like how much, that was mostly informational,
Yeah.
like what,
I mean, you
That we
can just
met with
put,
and
met
we-
with the financial
Yeah.
advisor
Yeah.
and discussed,
Yeah.
learned
yeah.
about rates and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, learned
Exactly.
about our
Yeah.
investments
Okay.
and options and strategy, whatever.
Okay,
For
Thank
the
you.
purpose of open meeting law, I believe the only thing you have to put in is who's here and action
I
taken,
got it.
so you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
keep it pretty minimal.
thank you.
All right, next we've got our director's report.
Yeah, so I have just a couple of things that I wanted to add to my written report, and then of course answer any questions if anybody has any questions. So Kyle has updated the videos of the commissioners' meetings on the YouTube channel, so those are all up to date now. We're in compliance with open meeting law. I did instruct that he could remove some of the older ones. So he cleared out some old ones, but we have recent ones. And then Oh, and then this is silly, but we have new fish.
That's very exciting.
Yay!
I know
Do they
that
have
Brooklyn
names?
passed away.
Brooklyn passed away
Oh.
before I started.
Yeah.
And we were just, the tank was just kind of sitting dormant, except for 3 little shrimp hanging around. And so now we've got 6 neon tetras and I think it's a neurite snail. It's not a mystery snail. It's a different snail type.
Okay.
And I have one more snail to buy per instructions from my librarian.
Do they have names?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I put them in there yesterday, so,
Nice.
yeah.
Meeting well.
Yep,
Awesome.
yep.
I personally love that kind of stuff.
I do. I really geek out about it, and I have a kid that really geeks out about it, so we spent a very happy couple of hours in a local pet store yesterday.
Yeah. Snails are really cool
they're
creatures too. They're very cool.
Does anybody have any questions about anything else in the report? I mean, things here seem to be going really well.
Yeah. And we have Shelby now.
And we have Shelby now. We are fully staffed, and we're working through. We're kind of hitting. I've noticed some things in the collective bargaining agreement, just where we haven't tackled them before. So like this came up with Memorial Day, and it's like, well, who gets holidays, and how do we account for those?
Yeah.
And so we're going into the CBA and looking through that, and just figuring it out, and it feels really collaborative, and it's been really positive. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. And
Carolyn,
Yeah.
I do have one question. That we were having each of the different staff members come into a meeting once, and to tell us a little bit about what they were doing and programs. And so we had a better understanding. I feel like that came to a screeching halt last fall, and I don't remember who we hadn't seen yet. And plus we now have Shelby. So, and I would do that to her right away, but we won't have another meeting till the fall. So I'm just wondering if we could go look back and say which members of staff did we meet with and who haven't we met with? I don't know, maybe you guys remember, but I'd love to keep that going.
Well, and I mean, and Anate is in a different role. So if she met with you before, it would have been a circ assistant, and now she's doing outreach and patron services.
Yeah.
So,
and we have David, and he's new.
And David, David is new. So if you just want to restart a rotation in September, I can
Suggest.
Yeah. And think
That'd be great.
So.
Yeah. So we haven't
So you
met
probably
David.
met with Michelle and Kyle and Judy and.
Yeah, I think we met with everybody prior to new people coming on. So that should be cool. I did get to meet Shelby very briefly when I came in, and she seems excited to be here, excited to be in a new building. I guess her previous library was like a really old building.
With lots of heating and cooling issues.
Yeah.
But it's Bixby's a beautiful library. But the wonderful thing for us is that she comes in having done the exact job she's doing here, just in a different library, so she can just. Yeah, so she, like, day one, I showed her where I was with the summer reading program, and she just took it over.
That's awesome.
And it's great. Yeah, she knows exactly what she's doing, so.
Awesome.
And she's starting the reading, the 2 to 5 year old programs. Did that start this week?
That was today.
Last week?
It was today. It was the.
Oh, okay.
It would have been this morning, actually. I'll have to ask her in the morning tomorrow morning how it went, because she's gone home for the day. But yeah, so that's all.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're all, I think, back up to our full slate of programs also with that resuming.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's awesome. All right, moving on. Old business, strategic planning. I kind of had 2 subparts on this, mostly just as a reminder that I'm pretty sure our strategic plan is going to start the process of renewing it. And so I just wanted to bring it up as a point of discussion. Now I know we're about to go off for the summer, but I wasn't here the last time that the library did their strategic plan, but I know I've done strategic plans with other organizations, and usually the first step is to kind of gather information. And so I don't know if we want to start thinking about how and when we want to begin that process.
So I think this one
Yeah.
is good through the end of 2027.
Okay, all right. Cool.
So if we get, from my perspective,
good
if we get a committee together at the end of this year, and then we do the data gathering and the new
Yeah.
report,
Okay,
and have it in place,
perfect.
does that make sense to everyone else? Like,
Yeah.
that's how I'm reading this, just based on, I did another read-through of it today.
Yeah,
So if we start the planning process for a new plan to begin with calendar year 2028, and then
Okay.
run, 3 to 5 years, whatever
Oh.
period that the committee picks.
So so you said suggested getting a committee together by the end of 2026 or 2027?
No, we should get the committee together to formulate the new plan at the end of 2026.
That's what I thought I heard. Okay,
So if
okay.
we get a committee together this winter,
Mhm.
then we'll spend next year, which is the last year of the current plan,
Yep.
putting together the next one so that we have no interruption in
Great.
strategic planning.
And I know that last time Maureen White from the Friends
Yeah.
participated
Yeah.
in the strategic planning.
Wonderful, yes.
So she might.
Oh, she's
be
great.
Interested again.
Yep.
She loves that work.
she is wonderful, so just a
And,
little,
and none of us were involved, right?
So,
I
yeah.
think so.
So yeah, because it was one of the things I remember, Carolyn, you saying you had interest in that, and I was like,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
I feel like we probably need somebody with some experience to help
Yeah.
us, and with Maureen, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, typically when I've been involved in strategic planning before, it is the library director and a part of the commission, and then, members of the Friends, and then a member of the staff, and we put a pretty blended committee together of stakeholders, and then, of course, do lots of gathering of input from the community.
yeah, and I think the last time that we really actually talked about the strategic plan was when we looked at it and we were updating various policies.
Mhm.
And I know we've obviously had a lot of other priorities over the last, 6 months or so. So I don't even know what our current priorities should be in the strategic plan, or if there's things that we are not doing that we should be doing. And just wanted to kind of check in on that.
Well, looking through the goals and objectives, there are some things for sure. There are some things that I can tell that were certainly worked on, and there are some things where I assume that maybe you didn't get started, or the previous administration didn't
Yeah.
get started. And then there are certainly things that are ongoing, continuous work for a public library.
Yeah.
So I noted that policy review has clearly been done very recently. And that's reflected on the website, and we have a very good up-to-date body of policies. We have some things that are then determined also by the CBA. So there were some pieces around compensation for staff, and position descriptions, that's now kind of in the
Okay.
purview of the CBA. So those I would consider kind of checked off.
Yeah.
But then there are things like creating a marketing plan. We certainly have marketing pieces in place. We're conducting marketing, but I haven't seen a marketing plan. I haven't come across one. So that's
Yeah.
work that's in this plan that we could focus on.
Yeah.
And then ongoing things like community partnerships and presence at events. And I think that we're working on that and doing a really good job, but it's something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
And then some things about promotion of the library and library card sign-up month. I'm not sure what we've done previously. Developing a presence in Waterbury Center is in here. There's been, we definitely have events that happen in Waterbury Center, like our last silent reading party was. But there's probably more opportunity to be had there. So
So we've got room for growth.
there are some things in here where I would definitely say, yes, these are done, or these have been, there's been solid work done on them, and some other things where we could definitely, there's some collection review for diversity, equity, and inclusion we could do, that was noted in here, so, yeah.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
it seems like it looks like it's coming along, even despite having some interruptions or some different focus at the end of last year.
All right, so I'm going to make a mental note and a little note to myself that maybe you and I should like touch base towards the end of the summer on like, okay, what do we need and what should we put on for September to like check in and move whatever we need to forward,
Yeah.
essentially.
That sounds
All right.
wonderful.
All right.
Thank you, Anna, for keeping that alive.
Yeah.
Can you repeat, so when would we revisit that then? That would be just for the minutes. You're talking about in the fall, like in September.
So Carolyn and I will check in, I'll check in with her at the end of the summer before we get to our next meeting, which is in September, to see where we're at and what we might need to essentially be putting onto the agenda in September to move forward things that are needed for a strategic plan.
Great.
I left the programming and staffing updates on here because it was on there before, but you kind of covered it, so I think we're good there. I just wanted to note that I did have an email exchange with the new select board chair, and she moved our attendance from July, when we're not meeting, to June 16th, which is next week. And Carolyn and I are going to attend. She said she'd do us first, because I guess the other committee that's presenting has already asked for extra time, so she's like, 10 minutes, whatever. So if anybody else wants to join, you're welcome to, but also no pressure
It's a
to join.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's a Tuesday. Yeah. I imagine that they probably would just want updates, like we're fully staffed now, and, they just want to hear from us of what we might need from them, I think. They just want to check in.
Telling about our investment accounts.
Maybe.
The investment accounts?
Yeah.
I know, it's making me realize that if we're not meeting till September, we can't have that conversation till then unless we do like a poll or something.
We could do a special meeting if we wanted to,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a good
anyways,
point.
just a thought.
My only other real thing on here was upcoming board vacancy question mark. So I did call Margaret today and I left a voicemail for her. So I'm not 100% certain that she's definitely that her plan is still definitely to leave this summer or not.
To go to Wales.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's still her plan. But just something for us to, I guess, think of and be aware of, that we will, if that is still her plan, then we will need to start advertising to fill that role.
What is her term?
Her term, I'd have to look back at the website, I don't remember. I know they're staggered, but I guess we can start thinking about who may be a good candidate, because essentially the way it works when we are adding somebody midterm is it's the select board who actually appoints them, but usually we make a recommendation. First we solicit applications. So as we know, it has to be someone who lives in Waterbury. We would be losing a wealth of knowledge and experience with Margaret, and I feel like she, as a person, is irreplaceable. But I actually asked Carolyn about like who would be, what would be a good board, a good board member, and because my question was, should we be looking for somebody who has real library experience as well? She said definitely, if we can find that. I mean, we've got, I don't know how many ex or current librarians we have in Waterbury.
I'm sure, well, you must have some.
I'm sure we
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah,
Her term expires March of 2027.
okay, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
That's soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so whoever would be appointed to an unexpired term would then have to run in March, which is kind of the same way that, and that's also what
Yeah,
happened.
it did. It did.
Okay, that works. Yeah, so I guess my thought on that would be, like, if we could do a sort of conditional vote or approval, to say if we confirm with Margaret that she is definitely still leaving this summer, we authorize whoever to advertise for the position so that we can start hopefully find somebody to join us, whether it's in September or October. But that way we can get the ball rolling and not have to wait until we're back in September.
So do you collect applications? Do we advertise it as though it were like an open job position?
I don't think it's as,
Letters of
yeah.
interest, because then they go to.
right, they get letters of
the
interest in the select board. I'm pretty sure that the town has, like, on the town
There's a
website, they
process,
have like,
yeah.
they have all the, you know, boards and commissions, and I think that they have a page that has, you know, open positions.
Right.
But advertising it is definitely a part of it, so I would say, you know.
And I think usually it's like just Front Porch Forum. And
Yeah,
just-
like reach out
Yeah.
to these something.
That's what I was thinking too, Front Porch Forum.
Right, yeah. So I guess I would make a motion that if we confirm that, we authorize whomever to advertise for that, so that that process can get started.
Are you volunteering?
I can do that, sure. I can do a quick post or reach out to, I mean, it's also in collaboration with the select board. I'm hoping to truly connect with Margaret before that select
Yes.
board meeting, so that we can have a real update then, because that could be helpful.
I have.
Well, did you make a motion, Anna?
Yeah, so, yes, so my motion is if we confirm that we can advertise for that position or to fill that vacancy.
I would second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Cool.
Can I just back up on one thing though? When you go to the select board, one of the things we continually have to do, and I don't feel qualified to do this, but is to clarify for them that our library commission funds are not town money.
Right.
And when we get new people, we have to, and so that question might come up. I wouldn't bring it up,
Right.
you know, but you just might want to be ready. And I don't know, Michelle, maybe you can give her like a statement that would be like, this is the, you know, the category. It's kind of an odd sort of situation that we came with that money, and that was part of the deal, that we
Right.
would still manage that money, but it's in the town accounts. So it might be of interest if they wanted to do something else. And I want to make sure that they understand it's not like, is it town money? Yes and no. But we manage it.
Yeah, and I know Margaret did all that research
Yeah,
about it.
we have all that.
And it's
Yes.
because of the way the library was formed.
Right.
It's a
Yes.
original.
It was an
Dr.
original
James.
trust,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, they exist all over Vermont.
of course.
Yeah.
yeah.
Not the only one.
But periodically that question comes up, and periodically somebody new says, well, why can't we use that money for
Right.
this? And
It's governed
I
by-
just want you to be ready for it if it happens. And I'm not confident I could explain it clearly, but maybe you guys can.
Yeah, I feel fairly confident explaining that, because it's, you know, the basic answer is it was created by a trust, and the trust, although really old, still governs what the money is for and can be spent on.
Great.
As well as who's in control of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, good. I just wanted you to be ready just in case.
yes, yeah, and it's not supposed to be spent on just, you know, ongoing expenses, but capital
Right,
things. And
right.
yes,
We
we,
spend it on ongoing every year a little
Right.
bit, but we negotiate that.
yeah,
We'll have to school the new town manager again too, because
Yeah.
every time we get a new town
Yeah,
manager.
Yeah.
absolutely.
not
Not
yet.
yet.
We do have a new town clerk, though,
We do.
Yeah.
yes.
And there's town manager initial interviews happening on Thursday.
What's the name of the new town clerk?
Excellent.
Wes, I don't remember his last name. I would have to look it
I
up.
just met him this afternoon, and I
He's
don't,
an
it's,
attorney.
I've forgotten, not great with names.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else that we want to go over, except my last point would be just a reminder for our record that there are no regular meetings in July and August, so our next meeting will be September 14th.
Okay.
And aside from that, if anybody has anything else?
So the next meeting is September 14th.
Yeah.
I might reach out to William, who we met tonight, just to tell him that
Yeah.
and see if he thinks that
We should
there
do
are
it,
any,
yeah.
if there's a reason to meet sooner, just with those rates that he mentioned, which are quite attractive.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
I do go back to that question I have, is like, well, what's it
That's
For.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really,
but we
if
would.
there's not a building on the horizon, like what's the
Yeah,
you know, what is the
yeah.
thing, yeah.
So, all right, cool.
Yeah.
In that case, I guess we can adjourn, and I have 6:29.
Wow.
Yeah.
Last month.
Not normally this long, but we had a wonderful presentation, which was a long
Yeah,
time
that was
coming.
good.
Yes,
That was
thank
definitely
you, thank you, thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for joining us.
good. Yeah.
Awesome.